Greetings folks, and I hope you're all serving the public trust wherever you are in collecting land, and welcome back to the channel for another quarter scale action figure unboxing and review. And today we are stepping back in time to 2014 when Neca used to make quarter scale figures, and it's their take on Peter Weller, aka Alex Murphy, from Paul Verhoeven's seminal 1987 masterpiece Robocop. Usual format folks, box, accessories, figure, then showcase at the end. But you've guessed it, yes, before we dive in, it's the usual shout out to everyone who supported Go Figure. And please drop a like on this review as it helps other people find the channel. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification icon so you don't miss any of the new and retro action figure reviews that we've got coming up. So, Robo needs no introduction, so I won't give one. Straight onto the box. Fair to say, the figure itself has stood the test of time very well, I think, but the box hasn't particularly. I picked this box up, this figure up from another collector who got it from new, had it in storage, and the box has got a little bit knocked around. As I say, the figure inside is still intact, so I've had it out, but let's have a look at the box. On the front, you've got the usual clear window with Robo underneath it. It says 18 inches at the top there, motion activated sound. That's a feature that we'll take a look at when we get him out. It says Robocop at the bottom, part man, part machine, or cop, the future of law enforcement. The movie blurb that we all know off by heart by now. On the corner of the box here, you've got a picture of Robo's head, full on, and that's continued around that side. On this side of the box, more of a profile shot of Robo, and it says motion activated sound at the bottom. Around the back, a couple more shots of Robo himself, once again a profile shot and a side shot there, and a blurb describing the film and Robo's background if you're wanting to pause it and read it. I will try and manhandle this box so you can see what's on the bottom. It's the usual credits and warnings here, don't piss this figure off or there will be trouble. And on the top just says Robocop again, and a lot of batteredness going on around there. So that's the box. So without further ado, let's drag Robocop out and find out if 11 years have been kind to him. Okay folks, so here he is. It's Robocop out of the box onto the turntable. Yeah, it's the dream come true for every action figure manufacturer out there. We've had everything possible you can get with Robocop, everything from Funko Pops to statues and all points in between. But we're here to have a look at Neca's quarter scale take. And I've got to say, even after 11 years, I still think this is a really, really impressive piece. And you're going to hear me say this more than once during this review, is the price point that these things come in at. Yes, they're a bit more pricey today, a bit rarer and harder to find. But at the time, compared to, say, something like a statue or even a Hot Toys figure, the price comparisons really were very, very good for Neca. But yeah, enough of my ramblings. Let's stop him from spinning and take a close-up look at him. And not much by the way of accessories with this big chap. What you do get, and I couldn't resist putting him in the classic pose, what you do get is one swap out hand, which is this one. We'll take a quick look at it actually. Hard plastic, no give in here, pretty basic to say the least. I don't really think there's anything by the way of paint applications on here, but for its time the sculpt is pretty good. The detailing is quite nice in the wrist section there, and overall, yeah, it's not a bad take on the Robocop hands. Ball joint here, you simply plug it out, pull the old one off, plug this one on, and you've got some rotation in these hands, but that's about all you've got. There's not much by way of articulation in these hands. So yeah, that's really the accessories bar his gun, which I will attempt to take out of this hand, which is a super hard plastic, so it's not the easiest thing in the world, but we'll get him to try and relinquish his firearm so we can have a quick look at it without falling over. And just make sure he's still sturdy enough on this turntable. We don't want him toppling mid-review. That's the last thing we want. So let's get him back upright again and have a quick look at the handgun. And once again, we're looking at a very, very simplistic sculpt here from Neca. It's all one piece of sculpted plastic. I mean, it's unrecognizable. It's recognizable as Robo's handgun, but as I say, very simplistic sculpt here. Not much by the way of paint applications, although there are some. It does look like there's some sort of grey dry brushing on the top there to pick out the details and give it a more metallic look. No trigger here, but I mean, I think that's down to the super hard fingers here. And once you've got those fingers in, you need that space there, and I think probably as well, due to the nature of the hands, you'd probably snap off the trigger if there was one in there. But yeah, it's very simple, but it does the job, and it looks like what it's supposed to look like, Robo's handgun. So yeah, that's the accessories basically. No stand with this figure. Yeah, that's what you've got. Let's grab him off this turntable, and he's a hefty chap, and take a close-up look at him. Now I am some distance away from the camera here because this guy is so big, so I'll have to lean in a little bit here. But yeah, pretty much all plastic construction on this guy, no metal here. Yeah, we'll start with the feet and work our way up now, as we always do. Now these feet are pretty much solid. They're on a hinge joint here. There's no split cut boot design. There's none of that moving toe thing that we see in Hot Toys takes on Robocop. But I still think the detail for the time is very, very good. The paint applications are good. You've got this piston at the back here, which is sort of synonymous with Robocop, and I think pretty much everything from statues to Hot Toys figures, this was the Achilles heel, forgive the pun, and something that you needed to watch out for, because to get movement in that leg you have to have a functioning piston, and the areas where they are attached are always quite delicate. So we have a functioning piston here, but I would always say with any Robocop figure, exercise caution around this area. But these have stood up pretty well. They're all a solid, chunky, hard plastic, and they've stood up pretty well. Yeah, so let's move up to the armor itself. Now, I'm probably doing this figure a bit of a disservice because we've got this purple light in the background, but there are purple hues to this to the armor on the legs here, if the light's catching it, down the front here. And these aren't reflections from the light at the back, these are actually painted in, and they're pretty well done. They look like they've been airbrushed in there. The paint applications when you get up close aren't perhaps the best in the world, but I'm going to say it again, we've got to remember the price point here. But the sculpt is pretty decent, and the paint applications, as I say, from a distance are very good indeed. You just don't want to get too close to it. You've got OCP 001 down the thigh area there. You have you've got, I mean, the ratchet joint here at the knee, and trust me, this is, even after 11 years, this thing is as sturdy as hell. Yeah, and you've got a ratchet joint which will go to about 45 degrees there, and a very sturdy joint it is too, which is nice to see. So yeah, both knees, super heavy ratchet joints. You've got a ball joint at the waist area here, which will give you a certain amount of movement, but not a huge amount. It doesn't, say, pop out like a Hot Toys 1/6 scale figure to increase the articulation. So yeah, you will be able to pretty much bring those legs right the way up though, and you'll get that sort of thing going on if you want him to high kick, which is not really his style, but pretty much they'll go all the way around. They'll do a complete 360 on that ball joint there, and it's a sturdy enough ball joint. And it stood the test of time really, really well. Around the back, yeah, you can see that those purple hues are continued in the paint applications. A bit rough, yeah, they're not modern standards, but you know, you can see where the brushing isn't the best and the sculpt isn't the best if you get too close to it. But overall, like I say, you know, you get a foot or two away from this thing, and it is very impressive indeed. And all the detailing is sculpted into the back of the legs there. The waist section, that sort of black shiny waist section, is done really well. I think it was more matte in the original Robocop film, but we'll let them off. Now there is a swivel at the waist here. There's no ab crunch obviously with something this chunky, but you do have a very, very good swivel in the waist there, so if you're wanting to go for those turning movements, which was sort of synonymous with Robocop, you've got that option there. So there's a good swivel there, and it'll pretty much go all the way around, which is sort of kind of odd when when his feet are facing forward, but you know, it does the trick. And the paint applications and sculpt are pretty good on this abdomen section, if a little too glossy. Moving up to the chest plate, Now, this is where the paint applications are a little odd to me. The choices that Neca made here were a little strange, because you've got those purple hues on the legs, which are quite subtle, but then you get this huge dash of blue across the chest area here, and it jars a little bit for me. It always has with this figure, that you've got the subtlety of the purple in the legs, and then this huge splodge of blue. I'd like to have seen that a little bit more subtle, and I would also like to have seen some of those purple hues that you see in the legs and in the arms as well continued on that chest plate, and maybe some of the blues in the legs and arms as well. If it had toned the blue down and maybe brought the purple up ever so slightly and mixed them a little bit more, I think it would have not been quite as jarring to the eye when you first see it. But the sculpt in that chest plate is really, really well done. You've got the hoops on the shoulders there. You've got all the detailing that you see in the suit in the movie. So all pretty well done there. The arms themselves, they're also on these ball joints as well. And once again, you're going to get a complete 360 out of these arms. So posing here is going to be not an issue. And you can have I have a lot of fun with this guy. You can really get some good poses out of him. The arms themselves, we'll just go sideways on at this point. Arms themselves, yes, once again, you've got that very, very accurate sculpt, and the paint applications are actually slightly better, I think, on the arms than they are on the legs. But once again, you've got sort of purple hues going on, the airbrush purple hues. There is a hint of blue in this joint at the top there, if the camera's picking that up, a hint of purple in this joint here. So yeah, on the arms, I think they've got the combination of purple and blue just right, but it's in other areas where they seem to have preferred one or gone heavier with the other, where it does tend to, like I say, jar a little bit, but that's just me. The arms themselves, articulated at the elbows there, and you'll come up to almost 45, probably 30 degrees there. You're only limited obviously because of the armor here. And as I say, those arms should rotate, and that's very stiff, but they will. The hands will rotate at the forearm there if you're wanting to muck about with that as well. Around the back, once again, that heavy blue shading going on down the centre there of this piece. But the detailing is screen accurate, if a little rough in the sculpt and paint. And this is where you get the motion activated feature with this particular figure. There is a little tiny Phillips head screwdriver in there. Just pop your screwdriver in there, unscrew it, and this whole back section will come off to reveal a battery sled. You pop 3 AAA batteries in there, and there's a little button here, an on-off button. Now, it's meant to be motion activated, but you can actually get it to do it from just touching the back here. So I will switch it on, and we will bask in the for a few minutes in the noises of Robocop.
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law.
And now it doesn't. There we go.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me. Come quietly or there will be trouble. Clarence Bodiger, you are under arrest. Thank you for your cooperation. Good night. Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law. Your move, creep.
And that's pretty much it. There's a decent variety of sounds there coming out of Robocop, and obviously all sampled from the film itself. And I've got to say, it's pretty effective. It's not something that I use in the display. I don't tend to keep batteries in it, and it's a novelty. But at that point in time, Neca were actually going through a sort of phase of actually having talking figures. I think we had the Crow, I believe, was a talking figure. We had light up features as well. It's a novelty. The fact that it still works today, I think, is great, but it's not something that I would use. And as I say, it's motion activated, so you pretty much all you need to do is wave at Robocop, and he'll talk to you if that's something that appeals to you. Yeah, let's take a look at this head sculpt. Now I'm going to have to drop him down in the gap here between the camera and the table so we can get a close-up look here. Let's turn him straight on. Now, I believe there's a ball joint going on in this neck section here, but it really doesn't allow for an awful lot of forward and backward movement. There is some in there, you can get some play in there, but obviously it's restricted by this hard plastic neck piece here. But it will do pretty much a 360 on that ball joint if you're wanting to do that, and bring him back round again. So yeah, you've got a decent amount of posing possibilities in this head. The head sculpt itself, I've got to say, is very, very good for its time. The mouth plate there is, or the mouthpiece rather, is most certainly recognisable as Mr. Weller. Paint applications probably showing their age just a touch, but the helmet itself, very well done. You've got those purple airbrushed hints again. The visor is nicely done. If you can get him sideways here, you can see the detailing in the helmet there. It says OCP Police 001 again. Around the back, this is probably where it sort of gives away the sculpt perhaps not being the best, and there's some dinks in there, and these are obviously flaws in the manufacturing process. And like I said before, when you get into this back plate as well, you can see some of those as well, and you can see sort of where the paint has dripped here, if the camera's catching that. There are dots of blue paint on the back here where it's dripped from the airbrush itself directly onto the figure. So yeah, it's a little rough around the edges, but I still think it's great. And this mouthpiece, now, yeah, as I say, unmistakably Mr. Weller, great sculpt. So we're in no doubt about who this is. I mean, my only real complaint actually on this particular mouthpiece is that it's perhaps just a tad shiny. But the sculpt itself, very, very well done. And paint applications very good too, with just a little bit on the shiny side. So there you have it, folks. That is Neca's quarter scale 11-year-old take on Robocop. Let's put him back onto this stand. I'm going to do this off camera actually. We'll get him back onto the stand, we'll get him turning again, and we'll go in for final thoughts. Okay folks, so final thoughts and verdict time on Neca's quarter scale Robocop, the 11-year-old Robo himself. And where to begin with this one? This is not easy. There's a lot of nostalgia attached to this piece. I think, if memory serves me correctly, this was my first ever quarter scale action figure. Probably, yeah. So yeah, it holds a special place in my heart. And I mentioned this before, we've got to remember the price point here. We've got to remember that its age, number one, and number two, its price point. This is coming in at nowhere near the levels of costing that we'll say a Hot Toys figure at the time, or a similar statue or something like that. So yeah, those two things have to be taken into consideration. But let's have a breakdown. Scale, proportion, nailed on, absolutely fantastic. Detailing, pretty good for the time. Paint applications, yes, they made a fist of it with the blues and the purples and stuff, but some of the silver paint applications, yeah, it's not the best paint app in the world, let's face it, but once again, age and cost have to come into that. I have, as I say, a real soft spot for this particular figure. Had I been unboxing it 11 years ago, I would have probably given it a 9 or a 10. But by today's standards, it's really difficult to score. I'll probably give it an 8. That's taking everything into consideration. That's taking into considering its age and its price point as well. So yeah, there you have it, folks. That's Neca's 11-year-old quarter scale take on Robocop, coming in with a healthy 8, and pretty well deserved too, I think. It's just a shame, in my opinion, that Neca sort of curtailed their production of quarter scale figures, because I think it gave us, it gave collectors like me anyway, an access point at a certain budget to this kind of figure, and it's just a real shame that they stopped doing them. So if you're listening, Neca, please try again, give us some more. I think there's some fantastic pieces in there yet to be made by yourselves. So there you have it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this retro review of Neca's quarter scale Robocop. What are your thoughts on this piece? What are your thoughts on Robocop? What are your thoughts on Neca? What are your thoughts on their quarter scale figures? Do you have any in your collection? Nothing is off menu. I'd be fascinated to hear your take on this piece. So please drop a comment in the comment section below. And what have we got coming up on the channel? Well, as I mentioned at the top there, we've got a boatload of retro reviews, but we've also got a boatload of new reviews of 6 and quarter scale action figures from Hot Toys, Pure Arts, In Art, Susu Toys, Present Toys, Caustic Plastic. The list goes on. So please, as I mentioned at the top, hit that subscribe button and bell notification icon so you're not missing anything. And I suppose all it remains for me to say, from myself, from Neca's Robo, take care of yourselves, happy collecting, and it's over to the showcase.